2, 1.
Okay, we'd like to welcome everybody to the August meeting of the Templeton Community Preservation Committee. We have 5 members constituting a quorum, present in the building, and nobody logged on from the committee. We will have 1 or 2 guests from MPZ. I see Matt Zahler is here online now. We will address our guests early when they're both available, rather than move the agenda around so they don't have to sit through all our stuff. But we will start by reviewing the minutes from July 13th, which everybody has received in the email and hard copy in your packet. I had a chance to review them, so I'm good.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes.
Okay, we've got a motion to accept as written.
No second.
Seconded by Joanne. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. All those in favor, Carrie,
Yes.
Candace?
Yeah.
I vote yes. Joanne?
Yes.
And Dennis?
Yes.
Yes, unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, there's some comments over there. I just the YouTube thing.
Oh, that's just
Okay. Yeah, don't expect me to have that stuff. Okay, so the agenda would next be an admin update, but let's check in with our guest Matt to see. Matt, do you want to speak now, or is Jason coming on board?
Yeah, I think Jason's going to join in about 5 minutes. It's up to you, John. If you want us to get started, and we can do that, and he'll join and weigh in as we go.
We'll just we'll do our admin update, and then when he comes in, we'll come back to you if that's okay.
Great, perfect.
Admin update is that George Andrews was reappointed to the CPC by the Conservation Commission, so you guys can reorganize your CPC board on the agenda at the end of this meeting. And I also received Vadar access that you all approved at the last meeting. So that goes into the next topic, which is CPC Finances. I provided you in your packets the financial report. It includes at the top all of the CPC cash. It also has all the buckets, so that's what's available. And it also has the project accounts, which have already been allocated to those accounts. I did get a minimal training from the town accountant, and I was told that negatives mean positives. So I don't know how to do accounting, but apparently we're not to worry. This all means wherever you see a negative, just assume it's a positive. And I will learn more and pass that information along as we go. So expenditures are, that's the second line. That's anything that we paid the projects, any type of warrants and invoices we received. Actual revenues, that breakdown is on the back of your financial paper, and that's the breakdown of where all that money is coming from. Taxes received for 2023, taxes received for 2024, interest, anything that was acquired in tax title. So that's where your money is coming in from. Then there's your buckets that you all are very familiar with. And your project accounts that, Mr. Henshaw went over graciously last meeting. So you probably don't need to review every single one of those. But, obviously that leads into our current projects. So this is my first time running this report. It's a lot. It's like 6 reports that I got to put on one. I got to do FY23, FY24 for 3 different things and then put them together. So it's accurate. It's just, I'll get better and it'll get cleaner.
Well, this is great. Thank you,
Yeah.
Jessica. So you're able to do this revenue. That's a report
Yes.
we haven't been getting. So
Yes.
it's nice.
And it's nice
see
that it's on both the projects and your buckets, and you can kind of see where it's all coming from and going.
Okay, so Jason is online. So just to wrap up from the on the finances.
Yep.
One thing I did want to let everybody know is that we have gotten the energy management. We got another invoice.
Yep.
So they're getting close to closing that out, and they have indicated that they expect to give us the report by August 28th.
Yep.
At which point we'll have it to review and discuss in our September meeting to see if we want to try to pull together a project for the Baldwinville Fire Station for, likely it'll be an annual, not a special town meeting article, but we'll talk about that.
Yep.
And any other questions?
Yeah,
comments?
I just had this one, and just real quick, I just wanted to know about the Day Mill Affordable Housing one. Is that project still going on? Because I know that their board, the tenants there, or whatever, they voted down to actually expand or do any more building. So I'm just curious about this fund. I just noticed it. Earlier today.
It has a different name.
Yeah, so I can, so the
That's the.
the
Affordable
rationale
Housing
behind
Trust,
that,
right?
that allocation of funds was to explore vehicles by which the town could establish a mechanism to ensure that when a unit that was labeled affordable becomes available, that the town could actually act on it within the 120 days, which could be an affordable housing trust. And then the affordable housing monies would need to be in there, and it could be an account where we would, roll it over. It's really, this amount of money is not sufficient for doing anything other than studying and coming up with some recommendations. So.
No, I just wanted to make sure, because.
Yeah, and to piggyback
I
off
know
what
that
you-
they didn't vote for that, so I didn't know.
To piggyback off what he was just saying, on all the other reports I had ever given you, it's called affordable housing.
Right, okay,
And so this was from the Vadar report. That's, I guess, what the account name is.
okay.
Maybe that's what it was originally
Yeah,
named.
it's just that.
So it's not
Not that
it's
property.
not earmarked for day mill,
Okay,
is what Mr. Henshaw is
okay,
saying.
all right, because I just knew that they voted not to do any more.
It's not earmarked for just
Yeah.
day mill.
Right, and it's
Yeah.
for and even if it is, they may not be adding anymore, but they still have some
Right.
remaining. Dennis?
Do we know if there's any action being taken in this direction to see about?
Nothing is happening on this unless we drive it. We've had discussions with the town administrator about, what can we do and where can we go, but it's in limbo.
How do we?
Well,
fire
I
on
think we should
CPC.
discuss maybe asking one of our members, like perhaps from the planning board, to see if he could investigate what it might take to get it rolling.
Oh. Oh,
Oh.
But it is something that we should do, and it's one of the many priorities we have. If you'd like, you and Adam and I could have a meeting and we could kind of see, because you're the one that sees it from the planning board, when these things come up. So if you'd like, I could schedule an appointment where we could sit down and kind of see what we could possibly do. This was started back when Carter was the town admin, and it was all trying to explore ways and a house, and one of the concerns was, okay, if we create an affordable housing trust, who's going to be the trustees? They have to have some expertise. We, and as a community, don't really have a big resource of that.
Yeah, right.
We don't have engagement with our housing authority representatives. So it is a challenge, and we don't have a solution.
it might be good to bring somebody in from the housing department as well. Just as we just sit on this, we may be losing more units on that.
Yeah,
day mill
eventually we'll
project,
lose them all.
so it seems a shame not to just do something.
Yeah, okay, could you make a note that we'll set up a meeting with Adam and
Yep.
it's convenient for Dennis and anybody.
Just seen the name and I never noticed it before. And it was like, what is it?
Okay, any other discussion on the finances? I mean, we're gonna get into some more here shortly when we talk about the projects. Hearing them, we'll roll on, and actually that rolls right into current projects, discussion of the MPD project at the former Baldwinville Elementary, which we are gonna need to call, the former Templeton High School as well, which I noted, and because when they do peel that sign back and it says Templeton High School, everybody will be like, that was the elementary school.
Yeah, I know. I saw that comment.
But anyway, as you guys know, we had a discussion about this at a previous meeting, and we talked about needing to get more community engagement. We shared that information with MPC. They reached out and they did a nice open house for them, and they had some folks from the state come and speak as well. Mass Live did a nice article on it, and we asked that because one of the big challenge being that, they didn't get the funding the first round, coming back, looking to get funding. It's a cyclical process, so there's other opportunities to re-engage with the funding sources. They've done a lot of work towards completing the checklist of items that they need to pull this massive project together, but are also confronted with a large increase in cost, projected costs. And so what Matt has done is drafted a letter to summarize where things stand and where they're looking to do, indicating, that there is approximately, an increase of, well, it's basically 50% increase, went from $20 million projected to almost $30 million projected for the total cost. The town has committed $1.174 million of CPA money, and they're coming back with the potential for another project, and they're trying to, do their juggling act of finding funding. And so they have a letter indicating that they would like to see in another expenditure commitment by the town, and the number that they had referenced is $750,000. So they sent this report, and we know everybody's just gotten it, not had a chance to review it, but I think if you look on the online, you get some nice color pictures of the whole thing. They did a nice job between Mass Live and the Garden News about the project. And with that, maybe we could ask if Matt and or Jason would like to kind of give us an update and check in on it. Is that okay?
Sure. Thanks, John. I appreciate your and the entire board's efforts here and attention to what we've been trying to do, and we're very committed to this project, and we understand that the CPC and the town are very committed as well. Johnny did a really great summary of all the things that have been happening. I'll add a little bit more to that, in that we were before the select board last night to discuss a reduction in the purchase price, because every sort of action that we can show does further enhance the credibility of the project and also the community's commitment to the project. And so the request was to reduce the purchase price by $100,000, and the board unanimously voted to do that. So that was a great sign of support, and again, an effort to bolster the project as we go back before EOHLC. And so, the other thing that wasn't 100% clear when we met last was, were we going to be invited back sooner rather than later? Typically these funding rounds happen on an annual basis. And so there's talk of this supposed additional funding round for highly ready to proceed projects. And so we've been included in that invitation to come back on September 30th, as opposed to coming back, in 2024. So that's a good sign for the project. And again, a recognition of the community's support. I think we did a pretty good job of illustrating in the letter, why the costs have increased to such a great degree. Time, never helps, time gone by. So, and the current state of the economy, which we've highlighted in the second paragraph on page 2 of the letter. So, I think that coupled with, all that's been happening, we really want to see this project move forward. I think one of the really telling moments was when we did the community open house and we toured the building. We didn't take folks down into the basement because the mold situation down there has gotten so bad that it's not really a good idea. It's not in your best health interest to go down to that level of the building. So it's deteriorating, and it happens. That's what happens when you shut off the heat and you leave it, and windows get broken and things of that nature. So we want to try and get in there and get this project moving. So to that end, we're making this request for an additional $750,000. We've kind of illustrated why we need those resources. And I'm here to kind of answer any additional questions that the board might have. I understand this is a big request. I do, and I also understand that this is going to take time. So, if you need as much time as you need, but it would be helpful to have some sign of whether we'll move forward with this request or not before that September 30th application. So I do recognize this needs to go to town meeting again. But anything the board can do to support us in the request would be great. So I guess I'll stop there. Jason, I know you're a little indisposed this evening, but you're joining. I didn't know if you wanted to say a few words or if you're able to do that.
No, hi guys. Sorry, I'm on the road up to New Hampshire with my children for a dad vacation with them, but I wanted to make sure I joined because this is obviously extremely important. And I think Matt summarized it well. We did spend a lot of time on the letter, making sure that we covered everything, and we tried to explain, some of the cost increases, inflation, interest rates. And frankly, when you start these things, like, you don't have much to go off of, right? Like we hadn't even, drawn the building on the inside. We, there's geotechnical issues that we never thought we'd encounter. The part of the site sits on tires. I don't know if you guys know that. Literally, like, we're gonna have to build a new foundation wall outside of the building to ensure that the soil doesn't fall down. The railroad abutment, is basically fill. So there's a lot of things that we just didn't know until we really dove deeply into it. When we did environmental investigations, there's a lot of hazardous materials. So everything just kind of adds up. And certainly interest rates going from, like, we're closing our loan in Bridgewater, our permanent loan in Bridgewater. Our interest rate is 3.8%. We're projecting a 7% interest rate on a permanent loan here now. So things have just become really challenging,
Times have
and
certainly changed.
we think the state really likes the project, and we just want to be as competitive as possible. We realize this is a big ask, and the town has never done anything like this before, and you've already provided something that's very significant. So, the word we got from the state was, we spent all of our ARPA money in the last round, which is something that we were counting on, because the state did have a lot of ARPA money. And they're dealing with cost increases on every single deal that comes in front of them. And they literally spent all of their ARPA money. So the message was, try and see if you can find other sources. And besides reduction in the purchase price, in this request, Matt, maybe you can explain the other funding that we applied for. We looked at FHLB funding. It's very specific and not applicable to this project, so we weren't able to do that. But Matt, maybe you can talk about the application that we submitted to the state as well.
Yeah.
For which they received something like 40 or 50 times, I can't remember.
208
amount
applications for those resources.
For how much resources, how much was it?
It was,
Can you explain that? I think it's useful. So
I'm not sure the total amount. I think it's an order of magnitude, $20 to $30 million of resources. But it's called the One Stop for Community Growth. And I'm not sure if folks are familiar with how the state operates for economic development and housing. It was a secretariat that oversaw both under the last administration. The Healy-Driscoll administration has separated the two. So there is a housing secretariat and there is an economic development secretariat, Yvonne Howe. But they recognize that housing is a priority across the Commonwealth. And so in the division of the secretariat, economic development does have a bucket of money that they like to try and utilize for housing projects. And it comes through something called the One Stop for Community Growth. And the underutilized property program is the bucket of funds that projects can apply to. And our project is a strong candidate for those resources. They'll award up to $1 million potentially. So we submitted that application in late August. late July, late June, we submitted that application, kind of got it in under the wire. And so that is in process, but we will not hear about those resources until probably November or December. And to Jason's point, there was a lot of competition for those resources because it became apparent to the state that, and to the development community, that the state was putting more resources out there. And, this was an opportunity to fund gaps in projects, and it's not just affordable housing projects that can apply to those resources. So it kind of widens the pool quite a bit. And thus, where they used to have, 20 to 50 applications for those resources, they had 208 in this last round. So, but we've applied, we're doing everything we can. I think that's kind of everything in a nutshell. As we see it, I'd be interested to hear questions from the board, reactions to the community open house. I also want to highlight the work that TCTV did, where they produced a tour video and also did a Q&A with Jason and I, and just talked about affordable housing questions that were kind of bubbling up from the community. And I thought that was a really great addition to everything else that was going on there. And the other thing I want to highlight that was fantastic was, the representation we saw from the state delegation, and also the former senator, Ann Goby, who's now the director of rural affairs, came as well. So everybody's really interested in this project. And I think Templeton is blazing the trail, for north central Massachusetts to show that, you guys want affordable housing and mixed income housing as well. So.
Great, thank you, Matt. I also want to thank you for, in your letter, you indicated some of the projected revenues that the town would see, referencing specifically the $400,000 price tag, but also the permit and building fees of $350,000, excise and real estate taxes, $100,000 the first year, and then the ongoing tax revenue will be based upon the rental formula. We did have David Connor kind of explain that to us from the Housing Authority, how that works. So, it is an investment in the future. It's just a matter of time for the town to recover the entire investment it would make. It has committed a significant amount of its funds. There's also a reference in here about the project financing, indicating that the CPA resources are kind of projected as a loan until it's guaranteed that the project goes forward and there's not too much profit or something. What exactly is that?
So because of the way these projects are financed, the investor, the primary investment vehicle is the purchase and syndication of tax credits, low-income housing tax credits at the federal and the state level, and also historic tax credits at the federal and the state level. When the project sees resources come in as in the form of, a grant, that is realized as income. So you have to basically pay taxes on any income. So what we do to structure these projects is turn all of the soft loans, affordable housing trust, housing stabilization fund, all of the things that we've applied for to the state, and we wrap the CPA resources into that. We'd like those resources to come in as a loan. And then typically what we see is, or we've seen, is that the CPA resources come in under the Mass Docs set of loan documents. It's a special program. The state has thoroughly vetted the loan documents and made sure all of the provisions are acceptable and meet all of the statutes, all of the legal requirements of the resources, because we're getting bond funds from the state, we're getting the CPA resources from communities, all of these things need to be vetted, with council. So it makes sense. And so the Mass Docs format and set of documentation has been approved and is the gold standard as it relates to the state's ability to lend to these types of projects. So we bring the CPA resources into that bucket of funds, and it becomes a loan. And so then, as we stated in the letter, should, revenues exceed expenses and there's excess cash flow, that is proportioned out and goes back to the state, but also the town. And that's how you kind of pay down that loan. It's not guaranteed, but it is a mechanism to return the resources back to the community so they can be redeployed for other projects.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I know that's a lot of techno speak for everybody, but
I'm sorry about that.
no, that's perfect. We'll digest that, but understanding that it's kind of like a security, we're going forward. You've got your projections, what your true costs are going to be, what your true revenue is never known until the dust all settles. So that being said, anybody have any questions or things they'd like to bring up?
If they don't get the approval on the 30th, what happens?
Did you hear that?
On the what?
If it does, if you don't, what happens if you don't make it through on the 30th? You have to go back into next year's bucket?
Yes, that's the short answer. We're cautiously optimistic that, we were invited back. So the pool of projects that got accepted to the first in January, when we first submitted, there were 50. Okay. They made 24 or 27 awards, right? They took the remaining ones. Some of them, they said, you guys need to go back to the drawing board. There's not a whole lot here. And then the ones that they felt really like we really want to fund this project, but we're not 100% there yet. They created this mini round for those projects, and there's approximately 25 of those projects. So we cut the bucket in half, right? They funded half of that bucket, and then there's another bucket here of 25 projects. We're in that bucket, and they think they have enough resources to fund those projects. They hope. We're all resubmitting our information again, right, with updated resources and showing that we can put these projects together. And to Jason's earlier point, and why we're here quite frankly today, showing that we've gone after the One Stop for Community Growth. We've asked the CPC for additional resources. The select board has reduced the purchase price. That elevates the caliber or the quality of our application, because the state says, oh, so we can reduce your request, commensurately, if all of these things happen, so I'm optimistic if we could show that we've made strides, and we already have, as evidenced by last night's meeting, where the select board committed to reduce the purchase price, that will rise to the top of the pack. So that would be my thoughts on that. But Dennis, your question is a good one. It's, what happens if we don't make it? Well, we're going to come back and we're going to resubmit again. So we're going to keep going. We're not giving up. That's not in our nature. And, we are very, very committed to this project.
Thank you, because we know, even though you're in that special bucket, everybody else's costs went up too. So hopefully the state can find the money to fund them all, but scoring these projects does consider local contribution. The town has committed the $1.174 million. That's not going away. Typically we have a 3-year grant award, but we can extend that. And I personally think this is a great project. It will be great for the town and for citizenry and for economic development. That being said, we have resources that we need to allocate. We've got funding numbers from Jessica to see where our balances are. And so we just need to decide what we want to propose going forward. essentially the project proposal is the same as before, so they don't need to submit the whole same grant application. It's just that things have cost more money, so they're coming back for more funds. Any other questions or comments anybody would like to bring up?
How
Share their
about what?
thoughts. Go ahead, let her fly, whatever you want to share about this,
I'm not crazy about giving more money to this project. We just got a thing from the CPC about funding issues. And we're not gonna be getting possibly as much money to the community. We have a lot of things in this town and have a lot of stuff. We invested a lot of money into this project. And I just feel like going out of the bucket, that's not anything that's not, the community aspect of the housing, which we don't have anything going on. I'm not comfortable going into the other ones. I feel like those are needed, especially the general. I think it's needed for things that we have going on in this town. We have a lot of stuff. We're a small dinky town. We don't have a lot of resources or a lot of abilities to fix things or do things. And we have invested a lot in this project, and I think that this 7 whatever is not a big amount compared to what is still owed for this project. And I feel like we're gonna trap our finances in our town, the little bit we have, into something more. I think that we've given enough, and I would only be comfortable taking that bucket that where it says community housing, anything out of that bucket. Anything else, I don't feel comfortable, because I feel like it takes from the historical. We've got other things, other historical things that are on the stuff. Are we taking from, open space? There's a lot of projects in the open space world, not just for Parks and Rec, but there's other things.
Okay, I think we've got the point on that.
Yeah.
Does anybody else want to add anything? Dennis?
I would kind of tend to disagree with that contention. This is the building that we're responsible for at this point. It's gonna cost us probably a good $2 million to dispose of this building if it ever gets to the point where it's no longer usable. So we're gonna be in the hole there one way or the other. This is also an investment in the town, which will have a return for the town, both financially and as a benefit to the citizens of the town. I think it's something that we need to continue to pursue as adamantly as we can, or as strongly as we can. We need to support this.
Okay, thank you, Dennis. And just to share with you, Matt and Jason, the buckets that we presently show a balance of $138,000 in the community housing reserve. Our undesignated fund balance, which could be used for housing, historic, open space, and recreation, is $948,000. And therefore, even if you were to consider an allocation proportional to the 4 categories available to that undesignated reserve, that could be certainly appropriate. It is a one-time expenditure to get this project done, whatever that number happens to be. If it doesn't happen, like Dennis is pointing out, the town's on the hook for a building that needs to maintain and eventually dispose of. Because as time marches on, it's been 4 years now since that building has been vacant. How much more can it take? What's it going to cost to recover or to dispose of? That's it is a good point to bring out that is that's a cost that's coming. So does anybody else have thoughts or?
Well, I guess I'm kind of on the fence too, because I agree with both Dennis. And I just forgot, Candace, sorry. And we are, so far, the email that went around the state is, we're not gonna get as much matching money this year from the state. So that does concern me about other projects that this may take away from in town. But yet, I think it is a good project. But to pour so much of the money into one project when there's so much of a need across the board.
And so as I had mentioned to you, Matt, when you sent the letters, that I did not expect that we would be able to do any voting since we just got the information. We need to sit down with our pencils and say, okay, these are the funds that the town does have. What do we project could be their future use, going forward. We have been fortunate as a small and 3% community that even though the trust fund allocation has been reduced and the budget did not include language for a surplus, we always have gotten in the last, the only year we haven't got 100%, in the last 10 is one year we got 88%. That being said, we don't know, we do know what our receipts are locally, we don't know what our match will be. So as you can see, this is a lot of money, this is a big commitment, it's a big decision. We really appreciate the efforts that you guys have made. You responded to everything that we've requested. We have to work through this. We understand your September 30th deadline to get some kind of response back to your next round. Our next meeting will be, I believe it's the 14th of September. So at that point, we'll have a chance to digest this and bring it back forward to see if we want to do anything for either a special or roll to an annual town meeting project or not.
Do we have a date on the town meeting in the fall?
Not yet.
Okay, so anybody else have anything to add? I think, we'll have a chance to discuss this further and we'll sit down with now that we've gotten good access to, figuring out what our revenue stream is going forward. We'll be in conversation and we'll be revisiting this at our September meeting.
Great. And I do just want to communicate back to the board and this ask isn't, it's not easy for us. We really appreciate the efforts that have already been made. I mean, that was, I remember going to town meeting and working with this board and just everybody was so supportive, and the initial contribution, $1,174,000 is a huge boon to the project. I mean, actually, it is making it viable, in the sense that other cities and towns across the Commonwealth aren't committing to projects like the town of Templeton is. So I do want to acknowledge that and let you know that we are very appreciative of it. And the project is, and I just also want to reiterate to your point, John, that, this project will, and Dennis, you mentioned as well, this project will give back to the community, not just from an economic standpoint, but, the impact, the qualitative impact will be significant here. This building is going to look better than it ever has. It's going to look like, it did when it was first constructed, and it will maintain it. Jason and I are committed to this project and committed to owning it for the foreseeable future. And unlike other developers, we commit to our affordability in perpetuity. Not every single developer does that. So, we are very much invested in the community, and we just want to make sure that that's clear. So again, thank you for your consideration and your time tonight. And, we look forward to the next steps. Jason, maybe you'd like to add something to that.
Yeah, no, I think that was great. But, I don't think this is like an all or nothing either. We don't know. I think someone asked, and John, you may have asked at the meeting that we had, like, what is the number, right? What's the number that we need to say we've gone out and gone elsewhere and, obtained X number of dollars from sources outside of the state? And the answer is we don't know, right? So the town clearly has other projects that are extremely important to it, and we understand that. And so if 750 isn't the number, that's okay. I can't tell you we used some fancy mathematical formula to come up with that number. So, we knew it was something significant. You certainly have a lot of constraints based on the information that you provided to us. And so if you're able to do something, I think we'd really appreciate it, and does it have to be 750? It does not have to be 750. I don't know what the number is. The higher it is, obviously the more competitive we are, but I can't tell you that, there's a bright line here. So I just want to be clear about that, and I really appreciate really appreciate the fact that you have a lot of other projects that you need to fund. So
Okay, well, thank you. You guys have been great to work with, and we look forward to continuing to work with you going forward.
Thank you all. Have a great evening.
one thing I do want to mention, we're having an opening for our project in Bridgewater, for the Secretary of Economic or EOHLC will be attending, and we'll probably have other dignitaries there. And we'd love for you to join. It's September 19th at 11 a.m. We can provide more information afterwards, but this board and other boards and anybody really from the town is welcome to join, and you'll be able to see the project and see what a completed project looks like. We're really proud of it. So
Great, good idea. Thank you.
You
Yep,
have
an opportunity.
Want to pass that information along? I can give it to the CPC members.
Yep, we will send you the formal invitation, which we're just putting the finishing touches on, and you're all welcome in your own personal capacity to come and see the project and witness the transformation. It's really monumental. So we'd welcome that.
Perfect.
All right.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna move forward on the agenda, emergency management building study. I just put that in there. I've already mentioned that we're almost done. We're expecting the report on August 28th, and then we'll discuss that
Yeah,
next.
we got the second invoice, right?
So there's a $360 balance remaining in that $9,000 project.
Yep.
Grange Hall bathrooms are going forward, and funding is,
We got another invoice from them as well. They're having progress.
so we'll definitely, probably look at, doing a site visit there sometime if anybody wants to check in. The conservation fund,
I brought it to the Concom at last meeting, and they're gonna continue to discuss the use of these funds at their next meeting, which is the 21st.
okay, and there has been discussion, as we will talk about later.
Yeah, for
on the
uses.
Crotty Ave.
Yeah, I brought up Crotty Ave and I brought up open space, or if they had any other ideas, but, some of them were just hearing from it. George obviously knew about it, so they wanted time to digest.
Yeah, nothing is,
I think that to finish the open space plan, to have somebody to do
Yeah.
would probably be like 1,000.
I mean, I think they were saying like, if they knew what the cost of things were,
Yeah,
like, they could do both, like maybe they'd consider doing both, like who knows?
Yeah.
How much is an open space plan and how much is Crotty
Right.
Ave? We don't know.
because we
yeah,
just have. a
we
few
know that
things to
there's
finish.
some,
Yeah.
like approximately $4,000 potential cost at Crotty Ave
Yeah.
for the serve study.
Yeah.
All right, let's just keep rolling here, because we used a lot of time already. An update from the Boynton Library. Last meeting, it was decided that we should reach out to them to ask if they're still intending to use the $70,000, or if we should vote to close it. They've indicated that they're still evaluating their plans. They asked us, they appreciate the funding from the town, but they're looking at how they can fit it within their ongoing efforts. I pointed out to them that any rehabilitation of the historic part of the building that's not general maintenance, it could be eligible until they decide they already have money for it from some other fund. So work that they've done there that they've already funded may have been CPA eligible, but not after you've already committed the money. That's one of the supplanting clause that's prohibited. So the
Can I
live,
add to that.
Yeah.
It got brought in front of the select board meeting last night, the letter. And the select board members discussed it, and didn't really take any action on it. They said, because Bob Sozak, DPW director, was there and said he had, like you just said, a list of things to do for the library, and he was gonna work with the librarian on getting that list. I spoke to Bob today. He did mention, as he did at the select board meeting, about updating electricity and painting inside and other interior finishes. And I reiterated what you said, which was, it has to be for historical rehabilitation. Even if it was already done, I believe they used grant money, so they can't go back in time to do that. So I think at this point, Mr. Sozak's gonna hook up with Jackie and get a list of what they have left to do at the library. And then you guys can review it and say, yes, this portion is eligible. No, this portion isn't, and give them some feedback on what's left.
yeah, and the primary metric is rehabilitation is the reuse of a historic structure, even if it's.
Yeah.
So replacing post and tube wiring.
Right.
Would be, as I understand it, an allowable expense, but general routine maintenance like
Right.
painting the trim.
How
That
about
falls under
the
support.
ceiling is bad. The ceiling is cracked. I was just in there a little while
Yeah.
ago.
So.
What does that rehabilitate the historic accuracy of the
We'll,
building.
we'll,
That's like,
Well,
the-
there is molding in the ceiling.
so I'll look to hear from Bob and we'll get
Right.
together and bring it back.
so we thought a list might be the best,
Yeah.
what's left to do.
It's a
and does-
lot.
Yeah,
There's
and
a
does,
lot
does
to
it meet
do.
the qualifications?
Yeah,
of
it's a
CPA?
lot of work. And it is, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a lovely building, so you wanna make sure it gets to be a little cleaned up.
Okay, so, and then we're gonna talk about the Baptist Common Cemetery project.
Yep, and that's in your guys' packets. So I provided Mr. Henshaw, this is the most recent one that they gave you, right? The one with the
The
little,
sign?
yeah,
Yeah, so,
Yep, and
we
then we
had to
took
go
the-
back to them because we wanted to make sure they had the language, and you can't really read it on this printing, but it's basically says that the access trail and preservation work made possible by the Community Preservation Act and the citizens of Templeton 2023.
yep.
And so there's two options on this sign. It could be carved like the other sign is, or it could be vinyl lettering. The vinyl lettering is $300 and the carved is 500. I got it written down, 800. So it's $800 to carve the language in the sentence, but it's $300 to apply vinyl lettering.
I like the carving.
The carving
I
is
feel
very
like
nice.
we're winter. I feel
Yeah.
like, yeah. Didn't that happen in the front over here? Something happened with the sign in the front. I don't know what they used, but something fell off of it. I don't know if it was like, if it was a vinyl. It was an issue when they put it out. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, and these signs, you guys have seen the one up at the First Church and they certainly are attractive and they got the town seal and it looks good. And so there is like an 8-week turnaround time. Obviously, we're not gonna put it up and then take trees down,
Right.
the sign up last.
Yeah.
So he's just looking for the okay to move forward on the sign. I said I'd bring it up tonight. Going with the carved sign, fits the motif.
It looks like the quote right behind the picture is for the carved sign as well.
Yeah, it
Right, It
is.
says carved, it doesn't even say vinyl.
Do we have to make a motion on this? If we want to.
And
do
the
it?
So you will see,
What's the second
it
sign?
already
Is that
like
for the
that?
one at the entrance that has
so
info?
one will be at the road, this
Yep.
big one will be at the road,
Road.
one will be right at the cemetery and it'll
Yep.
have like a hanging template of.
Yeah.
He was looking to have the names,
Of the
those who
souls
are
or
there.
whatever, yeah. All right.
So the quote that we see of $4,500 is
Yeah.
for those two signs.
Right.
And then there's additional cost of either $800 for the carved new lettering hanging sign or $300 for the
Got it.
hanging. So we're looking at either 4,800 or 5,300. Which is a lot of money for a sign, but these are a beautiful sign that will last in perpetuity. At least as
Are
long
we,
as.
is this something we're voting on? We have to make a motion?
It can be.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'd like to make a motion to do the 53.
Okay,
With the
so the
carved.
carved,
Yeah,
is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, motion made and seconded to go with the signage, with the language sign also carved. Any discussion?
The
is
sign at Pine Grove,
it vinyl?
No, that's concrete, that's granite,
That's good,
Right. more expensive.
Yeah.
yeah,
Who paid for that?
cemetery,
How come we're paying for this one?
because this is a CPA project, making
The
the
trail.
trail.
It's the trail.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
Well,
Hearing none, we'll do a vote. Carrie,
Yes.
Candace?
Yes.
I vote yes. Joanne?
Yes.
Dennis? Yes, okay, unanimous. We'll go with that and we'll send the note to Joe from cemetery. The other item that we have is a discussion from the surveyors.
Yeah, so I provided you all with the original proposals that you guys were looking at last meeting. I did as directed and reached out to both of them to clarify, and I can tell you that Montero extended their quote another month. And that the proposal didn't change with the addition of finding the extra deed. So that proposal is what it is. As well as I reached out to Zoc and they extended the quote another month as well. And his proposal does include permanent markers.
Yeah, that was the big question. We wanted to be able to make sure we were comparing the same thing. And so Zoc had a quote of $1,600 and the other quote was like 3,000.
Yep.
Um,
So based on that information, if you want to make a decision, you're welcome to. Or not.
obviously, the sooner we do get the survey, get the pins marked, then we can
Yep.
go to the next phase. And we can get on their schedule for soon. So we could go forward. It seems like they're comparable quotes and one is significantly less than the
I
other.
think they're apples to apples now, which was what you wanted me to figure out last time.
I don't know which ones people like.
We
What
like
did
the
we switch
cheaper
to?
one.
We like the cheaper one.
So
Especially
Zoc
with
is
the sign, right?
1,600 and
Fine, yeah.
With this
It's
one.
fine.
like with every, project costs are, accumulate. What is the consensus? Should we go forward with Zoc?
I'll make a motion that we go forward with Zoc as the surveyor based on the quote.
Okay, seconded by Candace. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Carrie?
Aye, yes.
Candace?
Yes.
John, yes. Joanne?
Yes.
Dennis? Okay, so we will go forward and you can reach out to them
Can't
whenever you're available.
Mhm.
Very good, okay. And then we have had discussion, George Andrews, who is on our committee, has had some discussion with the landowner. We will certainly notify.
Yeah, we
them.
have a draft
Um,
letter. We can do that and send it both to Mr. Andrews.
Yeah, just to let them know that they're,
Coming,
that they're gonna be out there and,
surveys will be there.
okay. Did you want to make any discussion on the Gilman Waite projects, Candace?
With the pickleball one?
No, the
Well, the
bathroom.
bathrooms are open. She
Oh, the
did a
bath-
wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, the bathrooms are, well, they're open, but we're still like working on like the timage when we're gonna open. Cause we haven't hired our seasonal laborer
They were open for,
for National Play
Yeah.
Outside Day, because we have them open for them.
that's good.
And we were opening as when we're down there in the concession stand, but we haven't set, because we have a meeting Monday, we haven't set that time where you're gonna open it and then, to a certain time, because you have the person to close it, so we have to have that, and then it definitely will be open when the concession stands open. That's 100%. We know that. But it's a matter of, what works for the building and grounds people. And the one we're trying to hire, our building and ground, how they'll open it and close it, because they leave at 3 o'clock, so. And so they come in like at 7 and they leave at 3, you have to get set up for your day. So what will be reasonable for them to open and close it and lock it, and then someone will have to unlock, it'll be unlocked. at
So
a
you're
time.
working on getting a schedule.
Yeah, and trying to
for the
figure out like the
bathrooms
key
and who's
situation for
responsible
the high school and stuff, who's responsible, like, we would like to see it more, not 50 keys out there, more towards, being like when the concession stands open and it's controlled that way, we
think
feel like,
If and when you have a schedule and you want to provide that, that would be great.
yeah,
You can
we
update
will,
everybody.
as soon as we vote on that, we know that Monday through Friday, it's gonna be open between such and such,
Okay.
100%. But after that, we know it can't be opened on the weekend unless the concession stands open, because there's nobody. who
Yeah, we've
works.
got to be concerned of security, even with
Yeah.
cameras down there. We
Yeah.
we can't, you leave it
Understood.
open overnight, you're gonna have the trouble.
Yeah.
So
That's
something for
that's what the
your
officers have
committee
recommended
to
as well.
work for, and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the officers will check it
Yeah.
as well. And I believe that the bid documents will pull together for the resurfacing of the courts,
Yes,
right?
they're working on all that stuff, yeah.
Ollie is working.
And
on that.
they sent out some stuff to, people for quotes or something.
Yeah, so the notice is out there that the bid docs will be available, so that will go forward. Now, are there any other approved projects that need to be?
Yeah, you reached out to Dwelly and they provided an update.
Yep, so Dwelly, and we'll bring more details forward on that. They've done some work down there. They haven't sent us an invoice of late, but they're ongoing. Just
Yeah, we have a planting day coming up
Yep,
next
she
week.
said planting day on September 7th
That's
Yep.
right.
Is that right?
September 7th is a planting day. What's
at
that?
9 a.m.
9 a.m.
9 a.m. Yeah.
And also, Emily said that there's glossy buckthorn hand pulling event that she's gonna add to the calendar for the fall.
Oh, that is so fun.
Yeah.
Everybody should be doing that. Glossy buckthorn pulling.
Got enough
The
of
thorn
my own.
part is not the fun part.
Yeah.
When will that be?
That'll also be on,
In the fall,
that'll be in the
in the
fall,
fall.
when it's
Yeah.
at its glossiest.
On the seed, but
But a lot of progress down there as well.
Okay, good. So then for potential projects, anything else on old existing? No, I think we've covered it all. So the Otter River Pool / Crotty Dam, there has been some indication from the state that there may be some funding available. Joanne, can you?
Right, Ecological Restoration reached out and notified us that they are accepting applications right now. And we are in the process. Lori Weeder is working on that application. We're going to submit the management plan with that application, as it pretty much covers everything that, the information required by them.
And so just to add to that, and I'm going to check in with Lori next week, see if there's anything I can do to help move that forward. That could be if we identified, and that's why we're going to get back to that conservation fund.
Yeah.
If we were able to commit a certain amount of dollars from local to help, say, $3,000 or $4,000 out of the 8 that we have towards that project, that will help in the ranking of the projects when they award the money.
Right.
And so
Yep.
we'll bring that forward.
Yep.
Houghton Park, I don't, that seems to be kind of eddying.
Well,
No, is a grant out?
Oh,
And
that's
we're
right.
making progress on the grant. They keep on asking us. We actually, on the 21st, they're coming to do a walkthrough on the property.
did you say last meeting you were gonna bring it to Parks and Rec for your meeting for the 24th and ask for what their level of support was?
For what?
Last CPC meeting, you said you were gonna bring the Houghton Park thing to Parks and Rec for your meeting for the 24th. July 24th.
Yeah, well, we're 100, we've been
Okay.
100% behind the
Awesome.
project. Yeah, we've
Yeah.
always been.
And then the grant got submitted.
Yeah, the grants submitted.
Yep.
And the people have contacted and there's been some questions and this and that back and forth, sending
Okay.
some stuff and information.
Yep.
And we actually they're coming on the 21st to come and
Yep.
walk through the property.
Yep.
And this is a match grant, so we're gonna need to get funding possibly from CPC to put up the money, and then we would get, CPC would get, this is where I've been told, that we would get so we basically get reimbursed. It's a reimbursement
Yep.
grant, which we didn't know that. When we apply, like, we're learning as we go along. So Jackie has been doing a wonderful job, and it's the first time ever trying to do a grant. Now that we've actually got a grant writer, that's been gonna be is being in the higher process.
Yep.
But maybe, I don't know if she'll be able to give her any, because she's so far into it right
So the
now.
reimbursement grant would be,
So
What?
essentially what we would do in
Yeah,
that, if they come up
think
with a
it's like
dollar
100.
figure,
yeah,
let's say it's $100,000, we would ask
Yeah.
it first, and if the CPA was to be the sole source of funding for that, the town we would put forward an article for that entire sum with language in the warrant indicating that I believe is it a 70% reimbursement, whatever the number
Jackie
is.
has all the-
So the language would say, okay, we authorize the expenditure of $100,000 contingent upon receiving an award of a reimbursement grant of
Ah.
70%.
Okay.
So it's in the language of the article that, if they don't fund it, we're not on the hook for the 100,000.
Right. makes
But
sense.
it's easier for the accounting sense for us to just pay it all out of this 100,000. And then when the 70,000 comes back, if that's the ratio, that goes into the same CPA fund that it came from.
so
So
if
it's
it
a
came
net
out
of
of open space,
30,000.
it'd go back into open space.
Yeah.
Well, this is a good opportunity for the
There you go.
town. Yeah, we would get it paid for to have it fixed up, and then we get the money back. So I think it's a pretty good, I mean, I thought we did good to put the grant out and give it a shot.
Yes, thank you. And I apologize for forgetting that. You guys put that
I
application
tried,
in.
I like Jackie's like, "You're the first grant I ever did, I says, try your best, try your best." They kept on coming back with questions.
Yeah.
and We don't know,
We tried.
but
The
we
fact
like
that
they're
they are
helpful.
responding
Yeah.
back
They
is
keep on,
indicating
yeah,
that
and
they
they're
want
coming
to
for a
support it.
walkthrough.
Yeah.
That's positive. I think that's a positive thing. They're coming to see it.
Yeah.
And it is that park, we're not asking for crazy stuff. We're actually replacing the broken.
But so just to clarify, the grant was just for the playground, not for like the whole
No, it's also,
Heroes Veterans area.
so the veterans
Pavement or
area,
yes?
but it is the field too. We asked for fencing for the field.
Okay.
So it's the field and the playground,
Field and the playground.
basically. Yeah, and she has all that information. Jackie
So,
has
I
all
mean,
of it, 'cause she's the one who's
There
filing
could
it.
be potential to maybe have more funds allocated to it to make up the difference for the Heroes Park and
Yeah, if we
areas,
want to
you know,
fight it
you
all
know,
off, or we just hold
fight
it
off-
reserve and do
Right.
it again the
Yeah.
following year.
Right.
The fact that you guys are pursuing this leveraged grant is wonderful.
Yeah.
'cause,
And like I said, the heroes part, we really feel strongly,
Yeah.
on the Parks and Rec, we feel strongly to keep that plan that people
Yeah,
had
right.
wanted, because they've been keep on getting knocked out and not having their area. We would like them to have that. We've agreed that as a park commission. And we just want that, we want that ball field back usable, and we want the new stuff for the children to enjoy. And I mean, she's put as much stuff as she could, and she tried her best.
Yeah.
so.
Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Grant.
And even, just to that end, the fact that the city is working with the town and wants to help us get to the finish
Right.
line, and if we're not there this year, we're that much closer next year.
Yeah.
So it's never a total loss until,
And then we learn from it. This is a big giant
Yeah.
fancy grant within a small grant within yeah, it's like a nesting doll. That's what I feel like sometimes. But yeah, so.
Very
Well,
good.
okay,
wonderful.
well, thank you, yeah. And then, so next we have listed Baldwinville Elementary School, but is that a potential project? Oh, that's just the new.
That
new-
was the applicants wanting to submit for more funds.
Okay, so we've
Yes.
already talked to them
All
about that.
set with that.
And Dudley Road, there's been some discussion about possibly being able to do something on the property that the town owns, and we haven't.
Yeah, I met Tuesday with Chris Bulow he's from the State Restoration Ecologist.
Yeah.
And we were looking at an inland sand plain, which reminded me, we were at the Bolton Flats Wildlife, but in Lancaster, but it reminded me so much of, kind of the sand pit type that we have there. And he was talking about an ecological restoration. He thinks that area would be very well suited to do a project like that.
Was he at the land?
But he's agreeing to meet us whenever we want to meet out there. To see what we have and kind of the programs that the state has, and it would just be really cool to restore it because it's very rare. And
Absolutely. Unfortunately, there's some places where the gravel has been taken below grade. So, I mean, so we're talking about, sand swallows or sand swifts. And
yeah,
where's the gravel? But having him there is key. And
yes,
so let us know when that's going to happen, and some
Yeah.
others will join them.
I'll connect with him. And he seemed pretty excited about,
Get a key to that gate from the fire or police.
okay.
There's a lockbox or whatever.
Yep.
Thank you. All right, let's see, so, that's Dudley Road, Gilman Waite Ballfields.
Yeah, so we have 1, 2, and 3 ball fields, the softball fields, and then we have the baseball field. The 3 of them, especially 1 and 3, they're rusted out, they're very shaky, and they're getting really bad.
Dugouts.
Yeah, and the other thing too is what we don't have, and you see it in field 2, is we don't have any roofing over it. And when you're sitting out there and the children are out there or the adults are out there playing a game with skin cancer, it's important to have some kind of shelter that you're not sitting right in that sun that whole game. So, I mean, that's another thing, to have a roofing over the 3 dugouts that don't have it. Your baseball field doesn't have a roofing. The other 2 softball fields up at Gilman Waite don't have any roofing, and they're playing there for an hour to 2 hours, and they're sitting in the sun like that with nothing to, even a hat. They're not in UV, whatever. It's important to have that in a dugout, to have that roofing. And like I said, those fences are bad. And then if you look at field 3, at field 2, the problem with field 2 is the fencing doesn't go high enough, and they're hitting, believe it or not, they're hitting it and they're hitting the building where we put the bathrooms.
Oh, boy.
So we really like to see that. So we need to get some price quotes on how to redo the fencing. How much is this gonna cost the town? How much is, doing any kind of roofing for those dugouts, especially the baseball field. We got a lot of donations in that, I've been told, that spent a lot of money, and they don't have anything like that. And I think it's important to make sure that the people that using these fields are protected too from the sun. It's a long
Wouldn't
time.
hurt to have some of the stands shaded as well. So
Yeah.
this would be like an annual project for next year.
Right.
Yep.
Get some
But we have
prices
some
on it.
chance to
Okay.
develop.
Yeah, have Bob get some prices on it, and it might be like one at a time too, it might not be all like, look at it. To get, we'd be grateful, field 3 is the worst one out of all of them right now, it's got the shakiest fencing right now out of all of them. Then I would say field 1 would be, but then I think that having the higher one hitting the building is not my favorite thing going on.
Go on.
Yeah, I sat there in the concession stand and I hear bang and I'm like, did they hit it again? No way, they hit it again.
Okay, well, thank you. Yeah, we'll be ongoing to that. The next item we had was the Historic Commission signs.
That
Mike's
was from
not
Mike
here.
Dixon, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll keep
He
it on the
couldn't
agenda.
attend, so we'll keep it on for next month.
Yep.
reorganizing the committee. I guess we could have done that at the beginning if you want to hear somebody else. So
We need a chair.
we need a chair, a vice
Clerk.
chair, and a clerk.
Yeah.
Make a motion that we make John the chair.
Second,
We got to go through and we could do the whole slate,
What's
of the chair, the vice chair, or the clerk.
I'd like to make a motion that we maintain the.
That's
Slate.
whoa.
Which can we,
Is
Say
Carrie,
that
are
is-
you the vice chair or Joanne?
No.
I think
Carrie
it's
is.
me.
You don't even know.
so
It
Mr.
is.
Henshaw would be the chair,
On a board, you don't even know.
Carrie would be the vice
Just like the
chair,
vice
and
president.
Dennis is the.
Are you acceptable to that?
Sure.
And everybody remember that it's her? Okay, so we have a motion for the slate.
I make
As
a
stated.
motion that we maintain a current slate of offices.
Second,
Oh, any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, Carrie,
yes.
Candace,
Yeah.
I'll vote yes,
Yes.
Joanne and
Yes.
Dennis.
You didn't see so thrilled about
Says
that.
Yeah.
elected.
Did you hear that? All I'm thinking is,
I couldn't-
not me.
Okay, so no comments from me. Anything, anybody else?
We ask each of them if they have
Okay.
comments.
Carrie, do you have any comments?
Comments can be questions, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, bucket, going back to the, to your report. So buckets are money that we have right now.
Correct.
Okay. And this is money that's not obligated and is not spoken for anything.
Correct.
Okay. And so we got some dribbles from tax revenue.
Yep,
Um,
and that's shown, so you look at line 3 where it says actual revenue, it says 56,000 and.
Yep.
That's the breakdown on the back. That's
So,
where that 56,000
has that already been put into a bucket or, okay. So when is what is our likely income stream? Not necessarily money amount, but like, when do our buckets get
monthly.
splattered into monthly? Okay.
And so, just to, you know how the quarterly tax bills go out. So
Yes.
There's gonna be a
Yeah.
lot of money right towards the end, but it comes in and drips
Right.
and drabs throughout the year.
Mm-hmm.
So that's half of our projected revenue is from that tax stream. There are some dollars, as you'll see on the back, that come in from penalties, interest and tax title,
Tax
stuff
title
like that,
fee.
Yeah.
which is peanuts. And then there's the match. The match comes on November 15th.
Uh-huh.
It used to be October 15th. So on November 15th, we will get from the state a check for whatever our 100% matches. It's in the document. It's already been,
Okay.
figured out.
All right.
But you can see the expended portion on the buckets thing that's what we put in the
Correct.
town meeting
Yep,
warrant article. That's not necessarily 100% guaranteed. It could be more, it could be less. People don't pay their taxes or, new growth or whatever. So it's always based on an estimate. And our estimate was also based on a 100% match.
Okay.
How much money do you think we're gonna lose with this new thing?
I have no
that they-
idea.
Yeah,
But I would
Yeah, we-
assume that it
That's
would
what
certainly
scares
be.
it just really scares me.
There's a minimum threshold of 28%. Or thereabouts, but because we're in the category of the round 3 where we get the additional funding, we never take a hit as big as the non-3% communities,
Yeah.
especially because we're small and poor.
Yep.
It's the only time it really benefits us. So
Yay, poverty.
does that help,
Yeah, actually, that does help. Yeah. And
that top number up there, that cash in the fund that says 3 million, that's
everything.
all the buckets plus all the projects.
okay,
Because technically, you guys can choose to get rid of a project and then that money would go back up into the bucket. So,
or project could cancel or something.
right,
Yeah.
right.
yeah, which is obviously we want to follow the will of the voters. but
Yeah.
if Things change
Right.
and nothing's gonna happen, we can close it out.
But that orange box that I highlighted, that's your buckets. Those
Okay.
are your 5 that you should be looking at as available
Yeah.
when you're considering projects.
And I got confused about the expended, but you explained that. So
Expended is,
that's what we voted on.
It's our,
Hey,
it's
yeah,
accountant
I think-
speak.
warrants,
That's a
warrants
positive
and
number.
invoices and stuff like that, things that went out.
Because sometimes it feels like,
Yeah, there's a lot of negatives. around there.
yeah,
I
like
don't-
the undesignated fund
Yeah,
Yeah,
made it go down to 948.
Yeah.
So that confused me.
yeah, me
me
too.
too, a little bit, and I'll get a little bit more educated so I can help you all out. along
Okay,
with this
cool.
Process, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, because I didn't realize like.
But
I'll say
but I
something
was,
correct.
I was reassured that nothing has a negative balance, even if it shows a negative balance. Like, if you look at the projects, you know how it has, it's all in parentheses, like if you look at emergency management building study. It
Yeah.
says allocated, it says negative 3,960, but that's really what's left in that project. We got an invoice for 3,600, so our balance is $360 left. So what they did was they added the negative to the positive. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and so she's
Accounting talk, yeah.
accounting each of these
Yeah.
things, and then so the easiest way to balance what the revenues, et cetera, have been is
Yeah.
through the undesignated fund balance. At the end of the year, she'll reconcile it based on the actual.
Yeah.
Do you have something you wanted to?
Well, I was just like the undesignated.
Yep.
Fund, if that was divided by 3 for the, 3 categories. And then what's in the community housing?
It's not divided. It's.
Well, she's just saying.
No,
what
I'm
if.
saying what, and to me, that would be fair. As far as splitting that up and leaving,
Yeah.
Yeah.
for the other 2.
So we actually have 4 categories. Recreation doesn't get its own bucket. It would come out of open space
and rec.
or undesignated, so,
Right.
but there are 4 allowed expenditures, so I think we should consider it fourths.
Force, okay.
So so what she is saying is if there was $1 million in undesignated, you could almost consider it as a 200, if it was spread evenly, it'd be 250 per.
Mm,
Right.
And then if you had the 250 to the 138, now you're at 388,
Yeah,
which would be more palatable than 750.
yeah,
Right.
definitely. I
Right.
do agree.
So those are the things that we can talk about and consider, and we gotta work through the numbers and we'll send out a,
You also have talked before, if you ever physically moved anything from the undesignated into the other 3 buckets, you've then made your use of that money smaller than if you keep it in the undesignated.
you don't move it, but
No.
if you were to do a proposal, you would say,
Yeah.
we were gonna fund them for
Something out of the,
88,000, 138,000 to zero out the community housing and
yep,
the balance from
Correct.
the undesignated.
I just like the fact that he did say that that this number wasn't a special number, that 750, which is make it, like, they just want, I felt like they just need something to say something. It doesn't, like, like you said, the more, they always say that, a developer's gonna say that, the more the better, obviously,
Hmm.
he's gonna say that.
Yeah.
So I feel like conservative and to be in means and say, what if this doesn't happen, because we don't know what this new thing is bringing us. I think, because if we want to do something with the Crotty, or if we want to do something with,
Yeah.
it could keep us from doing it, and I
sounds like they
worry
just
about
want
it.
some support.
Yeah, and then I
that
don't
is
know
true,
how
that's-
any of this could affect, but now that I don't know if anything will come, like, he'll be able to apply for anything, but the DPW now has possibly their wish, because the
HISMA is moving.
yes, and that might be money, I don't know if
What is it?
any of that
The
project. could have-
HISMA is moving to Winchton and
the
they've got a
DPW
permanent spot.
project that their
So
dream
They've
project.
vacated, I think, already their shelter in Templeton.
Yep, they got it.
Yeah, that would
built.
that's a town project.
Yeah.
That's-
Yeah.
That's right, yeah. I
So
don't
would,
know if anything from that could, like, come over here. I
so
don't
would
know.
we know better in September at our next meeting how much of that November 15th money we might be getting?
Yeah,
Because
see.
it
It makes a
feels like,
difference. It makes a
to
difference.
Candace's point,
Yeah.
it feels like if we knew how much more might be coming in
makes a
that could be
difference.
allocated, to the community housing and then, a quarter of the undesignated. It could give us a defensible rationale for what number we feel comfortable allocating as additional money to the housing project. I feel like that would be important.
I think there's a lot of people, voters that are, conservatives and stuff like that, are you
Feels
feeling?
like you all don't want to get to a point where you don't have the option to approve projects.
Yes, we don't, we
okay,
don't
so
wanna.
we're gonna beat this again next month, but we will pull together some more information on that. So another thing I wanted to point out is that every year we need to do a CP3 report, which is kind of a just presentation back to the state as to what the status of all our projects are. And I've done it annually, and I'll be doing it with Jessica this year.
Good.
And then that is, the assessors do a CP2 report, which is the basis for which the matching will come from. And then I will explore to confirm you know, when they're actually telling us exactly how much that is. It used to be the award was made October 15th and the CP3 report needed to be in by September 15th.
Mm.
And then they pushed the funding out to November, but they'll know before then, so we'll send that out as the information to everybody as soon as we find out.
Okay. That's fair.
The only thing that I can envision if this does fail is Baldwinville will have another Temple Stewart's, Baldwinville products site. And they don't need that.
Yeah, well, but we're done talking about that. Any other things to discuss?
No, I don't think so.
Do you have a motion to adjourn
Next meeting is September 14th.
at 7 p.m.?
Got it. I make a motion to adjourn.
A second.
All those in favor, signify